Us to the family.
Us.
This is Professor James Sims Muhammad, and next to me is Grandmaster Urban Shaw Muhammad, a longtime student of Dr. Moses Powell. We're here in Brooklyn, New York at Silky Hassan Khalik's dojo. We have our mask on because we're complying with COVID-19. We want to stay safe. But today's interview is really a conversation. And what we want to do is talk about Moses Powell, Dr. Moses Powell and Sanuces root. We want to share the knowledge with the young and up-and-coming students, potential masters and professors. We want you to hear from the masters who got it directly from Moses Powell. And we're going to try to collect information from several different grandmasters, and we're going to pull the best from all of them so we can all grow together for the upliftment of Moses Powell and Sanuces Jiu-Jitsu. That's what this interview is about. It's going to be all positive. It's for legacy, and it's for the benefit of the entire Sanuces family, particularly the younger, up-and-coming students, the women. We're going to deal with it all. So here we have Grandmaster Urban Muhammad, and we're going to start our interview. It's just going to be a conversation.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So this is how we're going to do it. So my first question to you, sir. When did you first come into Sanuces, hear about Sanuces? How was it when you first met Moses Powell, and how old were you at that time?
Well, I actually, as a young child, I had seen Doc. I didn't know who he was. I remember being outside of St. John's Recreation Center. And it was a crowded day and everybody was loitering all around the front of the building. And all of a sudden, it's like everybody moved to the side.
Yes,
and here comes this one guy just walking through. Everybody made space for him. I didn't know who he was at that time.
Yes, sir.
But I knew that was somebody significant,
Yes,
somebody meaningful, because
Yes,
the cats that gave him that level of respect, well, you might say some heavy hitters themselves.
Yes,
you
sir.
know, just
Yes,
the people
sir.
in the neighborhood.
Yes, sir.
And then later on, I had two partners, Jimmy and Ronnie, that I came up with. Well, let me take it back a sec. I actually started out as a result of a job that I had. I worked as a lifeguard in Brownsville Recreation Center. And there was a police officer named Richard Wood that needed a place to work out. And we had the perfect setup. We had the space, we had the time. He just wanted somebody to train with and teach.
Yes, sir.
So he started teaching me and my partner, Jimmy, James Wallow. And what he taught us was Goshindo Karate. We worked with Brother Richard for about maybe a year and a half straight.
Yes, sir.
But it was almost like we worked with him 3-4 days a week. And when we weren't working with him, we were working with ourselves.
Yes, sir.
You know, so we were, you might say, quite obsessive or over-obsessive with our training, with our desire to get this martial arts thing, because our hearts were in a place. And also at that time, you got to realize, this was like the late 60s.
Yes, sir.
When you had a very turbulent time where if you had any kind of sense, you knew you needed to have something in your belt to get you through it.
Yes, sir.
Not just to be able to fight,
Right.
but you had to have some information that was going to give you an understanding to be able to survive, you know, how you say, being face to face with somebody who's looking to take you out.
Yes, sir.
How do you
Yes,
defuse the situation?
Right.
And just, how you say, growing up on the streets, you had certain instincts that led you to know these were tools that you needed to get.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So to make the long story short, I went in the Marine Corps. My partners, Jimmy and Ronnie, they were out here still in Brooklyn. They started going to Sanuces. I went in the Marine Corps in '68. And when I came out, they were like yellow belts.
Yes, sir.
And I'm looking at them like, well, I ain't no way I could let these guys have know something I don't know. You know? So I got in there, and the first class I had is so clear to me still to this day. We were on the mat. I remember Soka Littlejohn threw me in Osoto Gatti. We were doing the technique. He came over to me. He wanted us to get it right. He demonstrated on me, and bam, he just dropped me. Mind you, this is my first day there.
Yes, sir.
Wasn't like somebody showed me how to fall or slap out. This was like, bam. Back in the day, you didn't not just have to be there, you had to survive Sanuces.
Yes, sir. Yes.
To learn Sanuces.
Yes, sir. We want to talk about that
you know,
later,
because
too.
the people doing it were not like, say, teachers sitting on a chair just directing you.
Right.
You know, Doc was on the mat.
Yes, sir.
When he was teaching,
yes, sir.
working it with you.
Yes, sir.
Silky Little John and, you know, Noel. Man, so many cats that were there that were so.
What was your age at that time? How old were you when you first started training with Dr.
Okay, I had just come out the Marine Corps, so I was 20.
20, okay.
Yes, sir.
Well, let me ask you this. In those classes, briefly, just tell me some of the techniques or some of the drills that Doc taught back then.
Doc was about being in shape.
Yes, sir.
Doc would, what some people would call a day's training was a warm-up for Doc. You know what I'm saying? You had to get through the warm-up to get to the class.
Yes, sir.
And there were some times where you'd be in the warm-up and you'd be going through, and it was so intense. I remember telling myself, I ain't gonna quit, but I sure wouldn't feel bad if I passed out, because that would be legal. I could, you know?
Yes,
But I wouldn't, I just, how you said, my spirit, my heart would not let me quit. But I was definitely gonna stay there, you know, as long as it took to accomplish whatever it was that Doc had us doing. And Doc was the lead in that it wasn't just Doc putting it down this way. He made sure anybody else got on the mat to teach, taught a certain way.
Yes, sir.
He taught the teachers how to teach.
Yes,
they didn't
sir.
just get up there
Yes, sir.
and freelance. They
Yes,
were
sir.
operating under his guidance.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It was an energy or climate that you knew you come there, be ready.
Yes, sir.
You knew what you were coming into.
Yes, sir.
You knew you had to get through that warm-up to get to a class, you know.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And you did it, you know what I'm saying? You can't say how you do a thing. Your spirit just takes you where you got to do it, and you get the strength to do it.
Right. So you had some martial arts training before you connected with Doc?
Yes, sir. We were, like I said, I started in Goshen-Do. I never ranked in Goshen-Do.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know, because I
Right.
was going to ask you, did Doc tell you to forget what you knew, or take what he's giving and just add it to what you already have?
Doc I never saw Doc tell anybody to forget what they had. Nor did he say, I'm going to add this to what you had. He just started working with you. And Doc, that was the genius of Doc. Doc could take each individual, see who they were, what their abilities and disabilities were,
Yes, sir.
and give them what he had for them in such a way that it was their special.
Yes, sir.
I say they're special in that if you take all of Doc's grandmasters and put them in one space, and let's say Doc was just to say, do a certain thing, all 15 of them would do the same thing, but you would see it done 15 different ways.
Push. Yes, sir.
Because Doc didn't create robots.
Yes, sir.
Doc
Yes, sir.
taught us principles. He gave us mathematics and science about what he was doing. He gave us an understanding of, if I touch you here, there's a consequence.
Yes, sir.
Something's going to happen.
Yes, sir.
Learn what that consequence is, because I say, if I know what is going to happen because I'm doing it, then I'm already thinking ahead of you.
Got you. You know, one of the questions was, what made Doc Moses Powell different from other instructors? But you just answered that question.
He was a phenomenal individual.
Yes, sir.
He was doing what Allah put in him to do.
Yes, sir.
And when you're doing that, nobody can do that better than you.
Yes, sir.
You know, we all have dreams and wishes and hopes of who and what we'd like to be. But how many of us really get to do what we really were meant to do?
Right.
When Doc was teaching Sanuces, Doc was doing what he was truly meant to do.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.